Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us at this last Act4SME webinar. Act4SME is a project co-founded by the European Union and stands for Apprenticeship Coaches for SME. The project relies on an exchange of knowledge between chambers that play a pivotal role in the involvement of SMEs in apprenticeship scheme and other chambers that are less involved in VET systems. It's a 2-year project led by EUROCHAMBRES, which is the Association of European Chambers of Commerce and Industry. It includes 16 partners in 12 countries. The countries are represented on the map in blue. We also have 3 associated partners, DIHK, CSR Europe, and CCI France. The main objective of Act4SME is to involve a growing number of SME in apprenticeship, and in order to do that, we build capacity in chambers of commerce and industry, support SMEs in hosting apprentices, and more specifically, we focus on SME that didn't hosted apprentices before, and we're also going to frame a European network of SME apprenticeship coaches in the chambers of commerce and industry. You can find all the information on act4sme.eu website. Also, the toolkit are available for free. Today's webinar will focus on monitoring and evaluating apprentices inside the company. We have a theory and a practical part. We are very pleased to welcome our main speaker from Audi Brussels, and the presentation will be done by Helen De Vries and Justina Rade. Also, we have a short presentation by our partner, Heijeka Debelux, and the presentation will be done by Matthias Pop. After all presentation, we'll have time for question and answer. You can ask questions via the chat box. In terms of logistics, all participants are by default muted in order to avoid any noise. You are allowed to ask questions via the chat box during the presentation, or you can raise your hand on the screen if you want to intervene in live. We hope you will enjoy the webinar, and if you want to have more information on the project, please check act4sme.eu. Now I will give the floor to my colleague Helen, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me well. Yeah. First of all, from our side as well, thank you for joining us. We're really glad that you have such an interest also in our project of VET, so vocational education training, duale ausbildung with us. Today I'm going to present. I'm Helene De Vries. I coordinate duale ausbildung within Audi Brussels, and my colleague. Hello. Justina, she's also a colleague at our department. So I'm gonna switch first. Yeah. A very short overview first of what we're gonna talk about. So we're gonna start just explaining a little bit more on the project itself within Audi Brussels. Then we're gonna go to the coaching of the students and the coaches and departments where they're working and having their traineeship. Then we're also going to talk a little bit on the pilot project, because it's a bit a different system here than in Germany, and also on the evaluation system, which is the main topic of today. Now I'm going to give the word to my colleague, Justina.
Thank you. So focusing this starting point, it is first of all very important to mention that the technical education system in Belgium has, of course, its own characteristics. So, yeah, here we have a rather theoretical technical education system due to the fact that it is strictly school-based. That is leads also to the fact that for Audi, in case of recruitment of new technicians, it is, it takes often a very long time to adapt these people. So it takes a long time of additional training, technical training for Audi. So The third point is that in general, the technical education has a rather bad image in Belgium. So most of the people favor a higher education system. So since the technical education system doesn't necessarily leads to higher education, there is still a problem of appreciation. So all these facts finally led to the decision of implementing duale Ausbildung in Belgium, which was besides requested by the management board of Audi AG, who has already positive experience with VET, since in Germany and in other sites VET already belongs to Audi. And it is also important to mention that there was a great support of the Flemish and the Walloon Ministry of Education regarding the implementation. So now at Audi Brussels we have, for the Dutch speaking people, the
Geassocieerd onderwijs.
Sorry, I'm not Dutch speaking. So I'm the enseignement associé for the French ones. So maybe here it is a quick remark that Belgium consists mostly of two regions, the Dutch-speaking Flanders and the French-speaking Wallonia.
We'll go more in depth on that a bit later on to explain more on the project itself. Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing right now? Right now, Audi Brussels offers technical training in industrial automation to students of technical secondary education. The two profiles that exist right now are linked to the grade of education, but that I will present in the next slides. And before we go on, I would really like to point out that a further goal for Audi Brussels, as well as from a political point of view, is of course to improve the attractiveness as a whole of technical education in Belgium.
Okay.
So I would like to present you the first training profile, the installation technician. This is the profile for our students from the 5th and 6th grade of technical secondary education. That means they have an age about 16 or 17 years. And they can work later in the body shop as well as in the assembly line. For the education at Audi Brussels, that means that they have 3 weeks per year of technical training in the Robot Center of Audi Brussels. There we have a special robot only for our students with several applications on it, and it includes also an internship on the factory floor of 3 weeks per year. The main part, as you can see, will take place in the school to get to know general subjects. But there we have also we have a let's say good cooperation with the school, and there we have also material from Audi that is used by the school to teach the general subject. The second profile is a more specialized one. It is for the 7th grade of technical secondary. This is a specialization year in Brussels. There we have more various operational areas. So the yeah, maybe I should mention first of all that this is the maintenance technician, but we, yeah, sorry. So they can work at the body shop as well as the paint shop, assembly line, and the general maintenance. The education in Audi Brussels is far more long. It takes around 10 weeks per year and includes also an internship on the factory floor around 20 weeks per year. But also here they have a great part of preparatory course and general subjects still in school.
Okay, so far for the training profiles. If there are any questions on that, please let us know via the chat, then we can answer them. We'll gladly answer them afterwards. I'm now going to talk about the coaching, so coaching of both students and the trainers. First of all, I'm going to start with the students. Since, as Justina has mentioned, they're only 16-year-olds when they start. For some of them, it's actually the very first time they come in a production environment. So it's really important that they are well welcomed, let's say, when they start here. So that's also why we provide a welcome day. It's a full day that I'm leading then with them. It's a full day of general information on our factory, on Audi, also as in general. They also get their security training, which is a very, very important part of the welcome day and of the whole internship in general, because it's also one of the competences they are evaluated on. Can they follow security rules and guidelines? And they also get a guided tour in the factory where they are shown where they have to go throughout the internship, who their coaches will be, where the meeting points are. Since it's quite large, it's really important for them to know that. However, before we start with the welcome day, everyone needs to have a medical examination here with us in our medical service. It's compulsory, so no question. It's out of the question of not doing it. We have to do it. Sometimes it happens that a student is not, after the first examination, is not seemed fit, but in that case, then we look what can be done to make it possible for that student, however, to start the traineeship. Maybe with some alterations, or maybe just because to have another feedback of another doctor, for example. On that welcome day, they also get their standard documents, which includes a general information book, and I'm going to show it, which is this. It contains, again, all information on Audi, but also on our factory. It has also all the security guidelines in it. And they also get their internship logbook, which is a little bit different per year. For example, for the Dutch-speaking students in the 5th year, they got this year this logbook, which includes, amongst others, some questions on their traineeship, which you can find here, but it also has the general information on the competences they are being evaluated on, which is in here, and also on some other, like what's the link between the school and the work floor. So quite a lot of information for 16-year-olds. So we have to explain to them often, and we have to repeat it often, that they also have to read it, which then they then do, because, well, we get back to that often during their internship. Apart from that, so that's really for the start of their training program. When they got started, they are monitored throughout, which means that we often go there. I often go in the production halls to talk to the students. They also have evaluation interviews throughout, feedback interviews throughout their internship. I'm going to come back to that later on. So I'm really quite close to the students, I have to say. I have a lot of contact with them. When it comes to the trainers, and by this I really mean like those who teach, they can be both internal trainers, since we have a development service. So that means that the internal trainers, people are really working here, often with a background in production. And then we also have external trainers. In that case, it's most often the trainers who actually the ones who from the production of the installations themselves. For example, when we work with FANUC robots, it can be a trainer of FANUC who comes here to teach. The coaches themselves, so by that I mean the coaches on during the internship themselves, they are technicians. So they are really people working on the job who then teach, who then give explanation to the students when they have their traineeship on the factory floor. So I want to point out again that there's really the combination of training in our development center, so in our training center, and also then the internship on the factory floor. As far as it's possible, we try to have 2 students per coach, but sometimes due to practical reasons we can't really keep that up. Sometimes it has to be 3 students. Okay. Then apart from coaching the students, we also aim to coach the departments and the coaches themselves, for the simple reason that the coaches, as I mentioned, they are technicians. They often don't have a pedagogical or didactic background, so that means that they need to get support on that as well. So the central coordination for that is a personal development service, which is us. Well, I'm part of that. And then they also get a train-the-trainer training before they start. Before they start, it's compulsory, so they have to take it. After a few years, or maybe even a year after, they can also get back to a train-the-trainer session as part of refreshment course. And then they can do that externally. So because externally there are also train-the-trainer sessions that are being organized, and then they can go there. Okay. We also organize a workshop for all coaches at the end of the year. During that workshop, we actually ask for their input on the project. If they have any things that they want to see changed or any propositions for that, then they can give that on that moment. And then also that includes a bit of a distraction, mostly karting. So it's really something that's linked to our business. They also get, before we start, before the year starts, before the academic year starts, they also get an information session on the new year, on who are going to be the new students, what happened to the students who actually finished the year before. Are they now working with us? Are they have they decided to go on studying, or have they decided to go on working in another company, which can be interesting as well to know why they want to do that. So then we also give them that follow-up information. Obviously, there's a lot of communication between us and then the departments in which the students are working. We have regular meetings with shift coordinators, with the responsibles, and also with the coaches themselves, obviously. Those are like the formal meetings, but then we also have a lot of informal meetings, and by a lot of, I mean probably every week. But in any case, we try to pass on the production hall every week, so that we really can talk to the students, can talk to the trainers, can talk to the coaches. And then all the time we get some feedback, we get some information. It's always very interesting to do that. We also communicate via our app. We have an Audi Brussels application, which really helps us to give quick information to the coaches when we are not in production. And there are also the information boards in production. Okay. As mentioned before, we are actually, in 2012, so in September 2012, we started with Duale Ausbildung in Audi Brussels. Back then, we were a pilot project for the simple reason that in Belgium, something like this does not exist. As Justina already pointed out, we actually have 2 regions in Belgium, and that means also that we have 2 ministries of education. So we have the Flemish Ministry of Education and the Walloon Ministry of Education, which means that when we wanted to start up a pilot project, for us it was out of the question to choose either one or the other. So we decided to go for both languages, and that means that we also had to find agreements with both ministries. I have to say both of them are very welcoming when it comes to the idea. So we quickly figured out how to do it, also with the support of the Chamber of Commerce. And then we had a proposal of how we could work it out, and they both agreed. The people on screen, the pictures of the people on screen are actually both ministers of education at the time. Minister Simonet from the French part, and Minister Smets from the Flemish part, from the Walloon part, sorry, Flemish part. So dual leren, that's actually then something new. As I said, when we started off in 2012, it was a pilot project, but now in Flanders, only in Flanders, they have decided that duale Ausbildung, which is then translated to dual leren, has become an official type of education. So that means that in September, last September, we started off with dual leren as well. So we participate now in dual leren on Flemish side. That also means that we offered our information, our input throughout the preparatory process for dual leren in Flanders. For us, the good thing is that now we have a legal framework for organizing internships and trainings in-house, because before that it was all part of the pilot project, and it all had to be, both parties had to agree on it. Now it has a framework, which definitely helps. And also there are now defined requirements for companies and coaches to train students. So when it comes to that, I can absolutely recommend that as a company you start with it, because often that's actually a reason also why the government then decides to start it off. Because the more companies show their interest in it, the more there's going to be like a willingness to start it off and to make that legal framework. Within the pilot project, obviously, we weren't able to do that on our own if it weren't for all the partners we had. First of all, those were the partner schools, one French-speaking school, so one Walloon school, and one Dutch-speaking school. Both are near the factory. Since the students can be 16-year-olds, we can't expect from them to come here by car. So the distance has to be feasible for them as well. We also got a lot of support from the Chamber of Commerce, so AHK, AHK Belux, to establish duale Ausbildung in Audi Brussels, but also throughout the project they kept maintaining the support. For example, they help us to make up a jury for the exams, but also for the trainer sessions for the coaches. And they hand out the certificates to do that still at the end of the year for the students. But I'm sure Matthias Pop will explain you more on that later on. It's very important to point out that obviously we can't start this collaboration with students without having a contract. So this is a bit the legal part of it, I'm going to say. So there is a contract between Audi Brussels, the student, and the school, which has to be signed by all of them. It's very important also that since the students are often minor aged, then they have to have, we also need to have the signature of their responsible, it can be a parent or a legal representative. There's also a confidentiality agreement between Audi Brussels and the student. And there's also a non-disclosure agreement between Audi Brussels, the students, and the Chamber of Commerce. Since the Chamber of Commerce also needs all the data of the students, like personal data, to help following up the progress they make throughout the internship, but also to hand out the certificates and so on. So therefore we need an NDA, since it's personal data, obviously. I also want to say that for the pilot project, at the beginning there was also a contract between Audi Brussels and the ministries and the schools for the fact that we could offer that, and it was considered as an official part of their education. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about the evaluation system, also the main topic of today. So as I mentioned, we have the internship, we have the trainings. First I'm going to focus on the internship, which is very closely monitored by us. So that means that we have coaches who evaluate the students via Students 5 Pro, which means that they actually have Students 5 Pro is a software we develop ourselves. I'm going to show you the print screen of it, this one. So actually via this screen, the coaches can in the production hall evaluate students by clicking the buttons, clicking the right names, and afterwards, and they can actually start evaluating them on all the competences that they have to evaluate throughout the internship. When they've done that, we organize also feedback sessions 2 or 3 times a year with the student, their coach, their teacher, an HR business partner, so somebody from the personnel department, and me. During that feedback session, we focus on the well-being of students. It's not actually an evaluation session, it's really more feedback from their side to ours. How is it going for them? Do they have any difficulties? Maybe do they have problems, practical problems, like let's say they have problems with public transport to get here, for example. But also like they don't really know where to go. Sometimes it still happens even though we explain it before. Well, those kind of topics can also be discussed throughout those feedback sessions. From our side to theirs, it's mainly coaches who actually give us some information on how it was going with that student so far. For example, what's their attitude? How do they collaborate with their coaches? Are they actually disciplined? Are they on time or not? If they are not on time, do they actually leave a message? That kind of stuff, which is for us very, very, very important. We also stress on that, and that's also the reason why we value this monitoring very much. Obviously, at the end of their training program, we are also very curious if they already know what they want to do afterwards. And in that case, then we start to inform about their future plans. Are they thinking about going on studying, which is for us also very interesting to know then what they want to study. Maybe afterwards they want to come back and we can really offer them a job as well, because it's the profile we need. And it's somebody who really proved throughout the internship that's a very reliable, good, motivated person. So that kind, but also if they are willing to come with us, to work with us, and then in what position. So that's really important. Again, I want to stress for us, this is a very, very important part of the whole evaluation process, because then we really know how is it going. At the end of their training program, so for the first profile, so at the end of the 6th year of secondary education, they get 2 technical tests. It's a theory test and a practical test. It's with a jury. It's on the didactical robots, on the training robot in our training department. And they are evaluated then, really a strict evaluation with a score, by a jury who has both internal and external jurors. So they both evaluate. The Chamber of Commerce is also included, not really as an evaluator, but they also monitor together with me, because I'm also at that point not an evaluator. They monitor the process of the exams. A bit of a difference in Belgium, I don't know how it works in your country, but in Belgium mainly the idea is when you pass a test, it's because you have 50% of the total score. However, for us, we changed that. We want 60% of the total score. It's just a matter of criteria, but for us it's 60%. For the 7th grade, students who took like the 2nd profile, so the specialization profile, for them, since they had been with us throughout almost the whole year, so for about 30 weeks, 10 weeks of training, 20 weeks of internship, they get a project throughout their internship. It's like their final project. You can maybe compare it a little bit to a master thesis, but then a very practical one. They have to, it's like an independent job they have to finish, and they have to present that at the end of the year, also in front of a jury. They get a technical test with both an internal and external jury, again, including a Chamber of Commerce who also monitors together with me. There again, it's my minimum of 60%. And then they also get a theoretical and oral test, again with a jury of minimum 60%. As you can see, for the 7th year, it's very strict because, well, most of the year they have been with us, and so we really want to see where they got. All of that, so the internship and the final exams, that makes up for our final results. And if they passed, they can actually start, and that's our engagement to them, they can actually start working with us. I want to point out that's our evaluation system. The school has a different one, and I'm going to explain you that right now. So our evaluation system, I explained now, for the school, they cannot, because it's legal, not possible, they cannot include the evaluation of the internships, because that's something they cannot test. So for them, they have to focus on the exams at school. It's like the tests the students have to still do at school, because they still get general courses and so on at school. So there they have to have a minimum of 50%, as I said before. And also the OD tests. So again, there for school, 50% is enough. For us, it's 60. For school, it's 50. This means, and that's also very important, that a student can pass the school evaluation even though he has not passed the OD evaluation, which means that the student at the end of the year, he gets a diploma, but he cannot start working with us in one of the profiles he worked on throughout the year. Maybe in another profile, but then he's considered as an external candidate who has to give in his candidature like everybody else. So that's really very important. Obviously, all of this has been spoken through with schools thoroughly, because it's a huge difference though between the two, and everybody agrees on this way of working. I am now going to show you a bit of the like what we're using to evaluate. First of all, I'm going to start with the competences. So I already said this is what the coaches get to see when they have to evaluate the students on the competences. The competences themselves, then I'm going to show you this. Those are here. This is the Dutch version. It's actually the same for French, but then in French, obviously. So we have both like the specific competences, technical competences, but then you see, if I scroll down, technical competence makes only 2 out of 8 competences in total. So here then we really talk about individual competences, like are they motivated? Are they reliable? Do they care for the working environment they're in? Are they self-assured? Do they dare to say, I can do that, please let me do that? Or do they dare to say, please don't let me do this because I really don't feel confident yet to do that? And that's a good thing as well. It shows self-knowledge and self-assurance if they dare to say that. Also the social competence, teamwork, for us very important. Do they enter their team and do they say hello to everybody else, or do they stick together with their partner students? Again, very important for us. Here it's really like, are they entrepreneurial? Can they manage to take up tasks themselves? For example, will they say to somebody, can I help you? Can I help you with that? Can I go look for something? All of that, those are the things that we also really value a lot. Within here, we also have this economical consciousness, which means that they get a lot of material to work on, and we expect them to use that also in an economical way, which means that they shouldn't like spoil stuff just like that. So that's definitely something that we focus on as well. Okay. Then when they are evaluated, we discuss it with them through this. So here we actually take down the scores of the evaluators, of the coaches, and then this is actually for us the basis to start discussing with the students. As you see, there are 3 evaluation moments normally per year, and here are then the notes for the HR business partner, for me, for the teachers, so then we really go in depth. From this year onwards, we're also starting with self-evaluation. It's still a work in progress, the whole duale Ausbildung. So we'll see what that gives. Now for the final evaluations, we're going to start working with that, so that the students beforehand has to evaluate themselves on these competences, so that we can also see how they show self-knowledge when it comes to that as well. That's for the internship evaluation. If we then go to the technical tests, here you can actually see an example, and I want to ask you to keep that. Well, it's I'm not going to show you too long. Anyway, so this is like technical tests we give at the end of the year. In this case, it's about soudage, schweißen of Deutsch. I don't know the word in English. It's actually where they have to put together two plates, metal plates, and they have to make sure that they are linked to each other. I'm sorry, I don't know the word in English. So this is like the test they get. In short, it comes to the fact that they have to, with the robot, they have to point out where the robot has to go, what exactly it has to do. They also have to correct maybe the point where the robot goes because it's wrong, badly programmed. And they have to tell the jury what they're doing and why. So it's not a way of just correcting the points, it's also of doing that in the most economical way, as again I mentioned. Here then, this is for another test, this is for the other technical test, for example. This is then the scoring. So this is the evaluation form that the whole jury gets. Here they see per part actually what the student has to do. However, this is not what the student gets. So the student gets like a tender that they have to fulfill, and the jury sees, okay, this is what's gonna have to happen. For every step the student takes, which is good, they can get a score on 2. Final score is 28. However, it's not only that, they also get 4 theoretical questions, and then they also are evaluated on how they presented it, how they did it, were they able to report on what they were doing to the others of the jury. So that's also a very important part. A final result then on 68, which is then taken to 100, so that we can see if 60% or not. In total, then students, well, when they've passed, they also get a certificate, obviously, from our side. So when we say, okay, well done, they get a certificate, which is actually distributed by the Chamber of Commerce. It's on an official occasion. It's really like a proclamation where also the parents are invited, where our director of personal services of HR is also giving a speech. Also, Chamber of Commerce gives a speech. Both directors of the schools give a speech, and it's with a lot of it's a very formal meeting we have with everybody involved. Okay, so far for my part, we stuck to the time, so I'm glad. Ines, I don't know if there are already some questions or if we first give the word to Matthias.
Thank you very much, Helen and Justina, for this very interesting presentation. I have myself already a couple of questions for you, but I think I will wait after first to listen to the short presentation of Matthias. I remind also all participants that the chat box is open for you to have any question, because I think it was very complete and very interesting, and I hope we'll have a good discussion afterwards. I just would like to highlight one point that for me was very interesting, is that how much you evaluate the individual competencies of the students and not only the technical competencies. I guess also the fact that they are very young make it very important to train them to be able to work in a professional environment and not in the school anymore, and behave like a real worker. So I think it was very interesting, and I would be happy to discuss with the attendees and with yourself after Matthias' presentation. So now I will give the floor to Matthias, which is staff member of the German chamber in Belgium and Luxembourg, and which is also part of this pilot project here. So, Matthias, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Ines. A very warm welcome also from my side, from sunny Brussels this morning. I would like to thank Helen and Christina for this very profound and very interesting presentation. Unfortunately, that doesn't leave much to say from me, but I will try to explain a little bit more in detail our role within the project. As already explained, up to now, there was only a limited or not to say no legal framework for vocational educational training within the industry in Belgium. So our involvement within the project was based on a private agreement between us and Audi. That means that we have signed a contract pretty much where we put in all the necessary steps and the aims and the goals that we would like to achieve during this project. And Helen already explained a little bit what we were doing at the beginning of the project. It was giving a helping hand to the stakeholders to defining the common goals and standards. And also we were at the beginning helping to organize the in-house training at Audi by providing external trainers to Audi who did give the training to members of the staff within the Audi factory. And if I'm not mistaken, we have now already the second or third generation of in-house trainers at Audi. So we see that that was a good approach and that it worked very well. I would like to stay a little bit longer on our third task within the project, which is supervising the final exam. It was also mentioned by Helen before, and that supervision task flows directly from the German approach to dual education, as the chambers of commerce in Germany play this role as a guardian of the exams. Helen explained it already. We are moving a little bit around in a difficult context. So even for the exams, we have to take two things into consideration. The first thing is the legal requirements of the school educations of the departments of education, because the schools still have to guarantee that the curricula are met. And the other thing is that we have also to take into consideration the commercial needs of Audi. So that has to be combined, because Audi, even if they make a great effort, they would like to have a little bit of return of their investment. So our role within this is to guarantee the quality of the final exams. And by saying that is that it's very important to understand that we are supervising, we are giving a framework for the exams, but we are not a referee, we are not a jury member. We are just giving this task to external jury who do the examination, and after the jury has decided that the candidates have to pass, we will give a certificate together with Audi and the Belgian Federation of Chambers of Commerce. And on this certificate, you have seen it before, we're mentioning the training. We are also mentioning how long it would take, but we do not mention any scores or points. And it is very important, and it was also said by Helen before, this certificate is an additional document. It has no legal value in a certain context, because the only legally important document is still given by the schools. But our certificate shows that there is that the candidate has something additional, something which is not done normally by pupils of 15 or 16 years old. In terms of praxis, what does it mean? As the Chamber of Commerce, we check the formal preconditions to participate. You have seen examples of the evaluation process over the years. So that is pretty much checking the administrative requirements. If they are fulfilled, the candidates are allowed to participate at the final exam at the end of the 6th or at the end of the 7th year. And we are also looking for external examinators, and that is pretty much a key element of the evaluation of the exams, because with the external examinators we provide a very neutral evaluation. These external members of the jury of the exams committee are coming from our member companies, It's not a requirement, but in fact it is like this because these member companies, they are in most of the cases also substitutes of German companies, and they are already a little bit more familiar with the concept of dual education, and they see it a little bit also as a social contribution of the company to this project of dual education here in Belgium, but also of course in Germany. The main game of the main aim of our involvement is that we ensure the transparency of the exam and the quality of the final exam, because at the end we are putting our name as a Chamber of Commerce in it, and we do that in a two-way approach. We do it as a German Chamber of Commerce, as we are the German-Belgium-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce, but we also do it as a Belgian Chamber of Commerce, because we are also the Belgian-German Chamber of Commerce. So we really try to bridge these two approaches together. As I said before, and I need to really highlight that again, we are a guardian of the exam. We are supervising the exam, so we make sure that everything together with Helen is done by the books, by the rules that we have established before. That means time management, ensuring fair play, if necessary, giving some organizational advice. But we are clearly do not examine. We do not ask any questions, and we certainly do not evaluate the performance of the candidates during the exam. That is the entire competence of the exams committee, including the external members of the jury who are coming from our member companies. And the chamber as such is not a member of the jury. These are the internal or the external jury. We are not involved in any way in the evaluation of the candidates. The question often arises why we are working together with external members of the jury, because a lot of companies do find it a little bit strange that we involve other companies from the sector in this examination. For us, it's very important because it ensures the transparency of the exam. It ensures also a higher recognition of the training that is given by Audi, and of course by involving more companies. We have also a multiplier effect, because these persons who are taking the exam speak about it within their own companies, and so we have, let's say, ambassadors of VET training in Belgium. Up to now, there was no formal requirements to become a member of the jury, because there up to now was only a limited framework if it comes to dual education in Belgium. But we have set a few minimum requirements, which I think are very self-explaining. The person has to have a certain integrity. He has to be experienced within the sector. Should be a little bit more familiar with exams. We provide training to them. And something which is very important, also it was mentioned before, is discretion, because the person who are taking the exam learn a lot about Audi. They learn about confidential things. And they also learn a lot about the candidates of the trainees within the Audi project, and that needs to be confidential. Last but not least, it's also important that the members of the jury are available at the days of the exam. Well, at the days of the exam, that I think is also very self-explaining. The members of the jury are gathering together. They speak a little bit about the tasks that the candidates have to fulfill during the exam. There's also explanation giving how this task should be fulfilled, what would be expected from the candidates, how should they do it. Helen mentioned it should be done by the most economic way. And all these other things is a little bit administrative work, paperwork, defining tasks, welcoming the candidates. I think that's very, very, very normal things and not too interesting at all. But it has to be done like this. If there is a discussion afterwards, we have to be sure that all these steps have been followed and that there is no mistake. There is no mistake done during the preparation of the exams. That is actually the most important thing of the exam committee. They are observing, they are asking, and they take notes. That is very important, that everything has to be done in writing. You have seen the evaluation sheets presented by Helen. So each of the member of the jury gets a form like this. He takes or she take notes individually, and after the end of the exam, we are sitting together with the exams committee, and then we do the common evaluation. Each of the jury members gives his impression, and we discussing about it, and that at the end we come to a conclusion. That means not me, the jury comes to a conclusion if the exam has to be passed or not. That is a common decision, and each paper has to be signed at the end by the members of the jury and by us as the Chamber of Commerce, and just to make sure that we have a valid documentation if there are any questions at the end. An exams committee at Audi, we have about 4 to 6 people. Helen explained it also a little bit before. We have members from the production of Audi, because the candidates have to work or have the chance to work at the end at Audi. We have a representative of the school. It's a teacher most of the time. We have a member of the Audi project team, which is Helen at the moment, and we have 1 or 2 external members of the jury. At the beginning, we had more people at the committees, but we felt that it would be a little bit too much for the candidates. They are still very young, 15 or 16 years old, they have 17, and if they have a group of 8 to 10 people walking around them, it makes them feel very, very uncomfortable. So we have decided to make it as small as possible, and I think 4 or 5 people, perhaps 6, is a good size for the exams committee. It was also explained before that we have a theoretical part and a practical part. For the theoretical questions, we have developed, or with Audi together, a catalog of questions where we can pick out questions and that are asked during the exam. But more important is the practical proof. Helen explained it already: setting welding points, do a programmation for a robot, correction of mistakes, something like that. So you see, it's very, very basis, very practical oriented, but it reflects also the necessity of that what Audi wants from its candidates. The evaluation is done on a point scheme, already explained. That shows or reflects the task, the difficulty of the task, and it's also very important. That makes it very easy for the members of the jury to do an evaluation at the end. So at the end, and that was also very much explained by Helen before, passing the exam with the 50%, which is required by the school, does not mean that the candidate gets our certificate. We have included a higher minimum score because it's important to have a certain quality if the candidates are offered the chance to work at Audi. And we also take into consideration the overall development over a 1 year or 2 year period of time. So do they have the social competences to work in a company like Audi? And then if you put everything together and everything is fine, we hand out the certificate at a ceremony at Audi. And it was already explained, it's members of the management of Audi, the headmasters, the jury members, parents. And from my point of view, I always like it because it marks a very fine end to a successful training period.
Thank you very much, Matthias. It was very interesting. Now I have already a couple of questions, but I hope more will come. So Helen and Justina, maybe you can a bit. As we know, the legal framework in Belgium is not developed to have that system. I mean, of course, it's very new. The legal framework is not fully ready to have apprenticeship in companies. So you manage, with the collaboration with the members, to have a system working, I mean, in parallel of the legal framework in Belgium. Do you think it would be possible also for other countries to develop such a system in collaboration with the chambers or with the business support organizations organization, a collaboration between a business and a business support organization. And then also, I think in your case, it's very successful because you said that now in Flanders it became official. So it's really, I think it's a very good achievement. So first question is, do you think it's possible to develop such a system in other countries? No, wait.
Sorry. So just to make sure that I really got the question right, the question is, if I think it's possible for in other countries to do actually what we did, so together with the Chamber of Commerce and maybe with, for sure. I'm sure it's possible. Thing is, you really need, and that's something, you really need support from your own management to do it. So when they're willing to do it, because obviously it's a collaboration between not only the personal development service, but also between other departments in the company, they have to be able to like liberate some people to train the students, to follow them up. If you have that engagement to start working together, to really collaborate internally, you can actually figure out the project itself, and that's something, and I think Matthias Popp will be able to recognize that as well. It's really important that before you start talking to the government, you actually have set out the project. You know exactly where you want to go to, so that when they see, when they first see the project, they know, okay, this is what they're heading for, and this is the goals they want to achieve. Can we rely to that actually? So. And that's what happened. That definitely happened also with the support of the Chamber. I have to say, from our side, we had the advantage that it's a German company, and also, well, most ministries of education will know that in Germany and most German-speaking countries, the whole duale Ausbildung, so VET, is really, really, really well set out. So that helps for sure. They know that they can expect quality because we can also relate to the experience that our headquarters have. So that's the thing. But yeah, I also want to say that it's definitely something I would recommend, because not only gives it the opportunity to students to get to know companies and to get to know like business competences that are needed, but also for us it opens it's a whole new perspective working together with education, like at secondary school education. It's very interesting for our side as well.
Yeah, so it's really a bottom-up approach, which is yeah, very interesting. And just for information, how many students per year do you have, more or less? And are you, Helen, full-time on apprenticeship system, or you have also other tasks not related to apprentices?
Well, I work in the personal development service, and my main task is duale Ausbildung. Apart from that, I also have some smaller projects that I'm mostly like I have more of a supporting role, not a coordinating role. So I'd say that 80% of my time goes to duale Ausbildung, 20% goes to other projects. Obviously, since we follow the academic year, that also means that in September and June, so the start and the end of the school year is extremely busy. So we are now going towards the end of the school year, and we're starting to feel it. But so yeah, I can plan, I can schedule it. To give you an answer on the number of students, maybe you can switch back to my screen, Ines, so then I can show, because we have it in our presentation.
I think now you can share your screen.
Yeah. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So here at the bottom, you see the current number of students. This year we have 38 students, of whom 3 are in the specialization year, which means 35 in the 5th and 6th year. Yeah, so that gives you an indication of how many students we have per year. The number of students who have started, so that are the number of students who actually who started working with us, is 29. Yeah, which is for us a very successful thing, because they are working in the profiles that we were looking for, sometimes for a very long time. So it's definitely a good thing that you can actually already check with students how they are doing, how they fit in the company or not, because that's also definitely a thing. And if they do, then you actually can immediately offer them a job that fits them, that they seem fit, that for them seems fit as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very good promise, the fact that if they pass the exam, you are sure 100% that you will hire them as an employee.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good sign for the students. And so you said you hired them and you were looking for this type of profile for a very long time. Did you design the training profile that Justina presented based on your needs, or was it just by chance?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Did you design the training profile based on the needs of the company?
Yes, in a way, yes. So we looked for profiles that are often looked after with recruiting. And then within that profile, we checked, okay, what secondary school education relates to that. Turns out it was the automatician, so electromechanics automatician. So then we, together with the school, we shaped actually the program. So what are our needs? What are their needs? What is something that we can offer that they can't offer? What are the things that they can offer that we can't offer? It's also something. So yeah, together with the schools mainly, we checked. So based on what they have to acquire at the end of the year, what our needs were, and then we make a program. Again, also with information from Germany and from the Chamber of Commerce as well. So they showed what that profile goes for, in like what the program is in Germany for that profile. So that also gave us a lot of inspiration.
And how long time did it take between the start of the project or the idea and then the first school year, the opening of the first school year?
Yeah, good question. It started off in 2009.
Yeah.
In the middle of 2009, so the question was asked from the ODAG. So yeah, in the middle of 2009 it started up, and in September 2012 well, the first students were here.
Okay, and so in between you had discussion with the chambers, with the ministries, and with the school to adapt the curriculum.
Yeah, yeah, but you have to know that in the middle of 2009 we had no schools. So we didn't know what schools we were going to work with. So all of that, like all partnerships were set up then.
Okay, and another question, are there any conditions to be technician coaches inside the OD? Do they need a certain number of years of experience or specific, I don't know, competencies?
Yeah, they need to have at least 2 years of experience in the job. I'm gonna say afterwards why. At the beginning, so when we started off in September 2012, it was on basis of volunteering. So if somebody in the job said, yeah, I want to do it, then we check together with their responsibles, okay, are they fit? Are they actually profiles that are able to do this? Most of them were, and then we offered them the train-the-trainer program. Now that we actually have former students who have been working with us for 2 years, they don't get a choice. They have to do it. And I have to say that 100% they are willing to do it as well. It's really a bit the idea of, okay, what you got, you also have to be able to give to somebody else. And it works. It works really well. So I think now we have like 50-50 trainers who were once a student themselves, and trainers who've never been a student but who were there from the start. The 2 years minimum is just to make sure that they have enough background already, technical background, that they actually can go into questions from students.
And you also mentioned that in Belgium, and I think in many EU countries, apprenticeships still have a bad reputation, bad image. Do you do do you do some dissemination or communication in school to promote your program and explain the benefits of the program?
Yeah. These last few years, there have been a lot of campaigns, like promo campaigns for technical jobs, for technical profiles. And we always work together with, well, if they ask for our support, we support it. For example, we have that for Agoria now, which is a representative organization for technical companies in Belgium on both sides, so on Flemish and French-speaking side. They have a lot of projects, for example, Tech for Teens, or so it's really interesting, and there we provide support for sure. Yeah. When there have been also the other day there was a huge event on mobility of the future, and there as well, like, we provide support for it. So students in secondary school had to work. They got a problem that they had to solve on a technical way. They got a technical problem, they had to solve it. And then we were there as well to support. For example, an engineer was there to explain what could be done. It's something we need. So, and the bad image also has to do with the fact that a lot of people think, like, okay, they're gonna have to work in factory, they're gonna have to work like the 6 to 2, 2 to 10 hours. It's gonna change. You have to work in shifts. But actually, a lot has changed. It's a bit the image of a factory of 50 years ago, which is not at all anymore what it was. So you really need a lot of knowledge to be able to work in this environment. So it's definitely
Yeah, because when you also presented technology is highly involved. Like you spoke about the app for communication to the coaches. Also, the evaluation of competencies is also online. So it's really technical and technology oriented. So yeah, I guess you need to be technical, and it's not the old factory as we thought about it in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you plan to extend the project to more schools or more training profiles, or in the future?
Yeah, the topic is on the table, but obviously, well, now we actually have. For us, it feels like we have just started it. Although it's been 6 years, but we're still, as I said, we're still in progress. It's still getting more shape. So yeah, it's definitely something that's on the table. But that's the only thing I can say so far. It's not something like, it's not fixed when or what or how, but it's on the table for sure.
And at EU level now, they speak a lot about mobility between EU countries. Are you also maybe planning to organize mobility program between Audi Belgium and Audi Germany, or Audi in another EU countries, or other, not only Audi, other industries?
Well, what we do now, for example, I think Justina is a good example of that. She is German, and she is now working with us for a temporary time. So yeah, we are definitely open for people from other countries to come with us for a certain amount of time as an intern, for example. However, for duale Ausbildung, so far we haven't started that up. We know it's a theme, we know it's a topic, we know that Europe has a lot of support for that, but so far we haven't organized it yet.
Okay, maybe for the future.
Yeah, maybe for the future. Obviously, well, we have also companies throughout the world, so yeah, there's definitely possibility there as well. Yeah.
Not only to EU, but maybe China or other countries.
Yeah, it can be as well. Yeah. Again, nothing has been planned so far, but
let's see. Okay, on our side, we're good. I don't know, Helen, if you would like to add anything before the end of the webinar.
No, just maybe one more thing. If you want to start it up, you really have to believe in it. It's a lot of work. But as soon as you have some students here, it's really great to see them grow in their role. And so, yeah, I can recommend it absolutely to everyone who is thinking about doing it. Just go. And thank you very much for your interest and for your attention. So,
yeah, thank you to you, because I think it was very valuable, the input you gave us. And we had more than 40 attendees today, so it's very good, and I hope the word will be disseminated around the EU. Again, I would like to thank all the speakers, so Matthias here from the chambers, but also Justina and Helen for your time. And I know in a private company it's more difficult always, so thank you very much for your time and for your preparation. And I hope all the attendees enjoyed the webinar. I think it was very helpful, but I hope you also think about it. You know my email address, so please contact me if you have any questions. And anyway, you will receive an email tonight or tomorrow with the evaluation of the webinar, and also more information about this presentation. Thank you very much to all of you, and see you next time.
okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.